Welcome back to Keto and Crime and Thought Crime. Today, continuing on with my more casual Thanksgiving weekend, I decided to channel my inner Dorothy Spornak and do kind of a talk about myself. I've seen several people ask more about what goes on in my life, what I do, and things like that. So I thought I would literally cover what I do for a living, how I got started on YouTube. I am self-employed. This is going to be a precursor to my Bootstrap Warrior series, which are going to be motivational conversations with entrepreneurs and other people that have faced adversity and kind of built themselves back up by becoming self-employed. And it's going to be kind of inspirational. Those will start in the next couple of weeks. It's just been a little bit of a struggle getting the interview scheduled with the holiday. So I do apologize for that delay, but I've got a couple in the can and they will be coming out very, very soon. But I thought I would kind of kick that off by talking about my own small business because I am fully self-employed. But before I get into that, I wanted to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons and channel members. And I just wanted to say thank you. Could not do this without you. You are literally the fuel that makes this channel run. If you want to join them, those links are down below, or you can check out my merch store. Also, the best thing you can do is go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. A like, comment, share always helps. And I'm very, very grateful for all the help that I get. So thank you so much. And without further ado, let's get into it. I didn't actually become an entrepreneur until much later in my life. I started out wanting to go into politics and law, and I was after the military, I decided to study. I majored in psychology, minored in political science, English, and history. Don't ask. But I was, and then eventually went on and pursued a master's in public administration, which is basically political science and then management as related to public works. I was planning to go into politics and apply to law school. I did get into law school, but decided not to go. And I took the skills I learned cooking in the Army to start working in professional kitchens and restaurants and helped fund the rest of my education. But for a long time, 10 or 15 years, I worked in professional kitchens as a chef. And then I started teaching classes at a local community college in Nashville, Tennessee, as well as at a private for-profit culinary school. And I did that for about 6 years. While there, I helped, at the community college, I helped move some of their classes, their management classes, from in-classroom to online. Now, back then, online was still very much a new thing as far as being able to go to school. So I helped this community college move a lot of their classes online, and as a result got very proficient in a lot of the online learning platforms that were available at that time. And that caused me to get recruited by a fully online college, or actually the online arm of a for-profit college, which is no longer in existence, to actually, but by virtue of my degrees, to actually move their culinary management program online, as well as head up the general education, so the English, the math, history, right in line with my degrees, to actually move a lot of their gen ed classes online as well. So I took that over. I wrote a lot of the curriculum with the help of people that had PhDs in the subject matter. I also migrated a lot of the courses online, did a lot of the technical work, and that was a work from home position. I loved it. I did it for 5 years, and then they outsourced basically my job, which had gone from being a full curriculum developer and program director to now just somebody that kind of upkeeps everything and helps them recruit instructors and stuff. They decided to outsource that to a very large book publisher, and I got laid off and then offered the job back as a 1099 contractor for half the salary. Well, I gave them the middle finger and moved on. I worked in kitchens. I worked in a hotel at the front desk. I did a lot of things, as well as I still taught at the private. I went back to the private culinary school where I had taught before, and got back on as a part-time adjunct instructor there. And between all the livings, I was still making a very good living. Then I kind of got weary. I got weary of running from job to job, going teach at the school, then running to the hotel because I worked overnights at the hotel. I was the night auditor and night manager, so running from there and then going to teach a class at 8 o'clock the next morning after just getting off, and then sometimes I would teach all day, sleep in my car for 2 hours, and then go back in and work another shift at the hotel. I was tired. So I decided I wanted to put it all together in one job, if that was possible. So I started looking for other, and I got hired as an assistant manager for a chain cafe bakery. And I went through the training program, started out as an assistant manager in a local branch, and hated every minute of it. That was not for me. So I started looking around for other opportunities, anything I could do to get out of this drudgery, because I literally hated being what was basically a retail manager. Nothing was made from scratch. It was all boil and bag. It was pretty much retail, and I hated it. I have so much respect for anyone out there that works in retail. You have my super respect. So from there, I was delving further into despair. I actually had an old friend of mine who had been very successful, a very successful entrepreneur, was looking in, actually kind of a serial entrepreneur. He would start companies, grow them, and then sell them. He approached me to help him with a new venture, which was a franchise of a delivery company. Now, this was before Uber Eats. This was even before DoorDash and the big ones that we know. This was in the infancy of, on-demand food delivery. So it was a franchise of a larger outfit that had been very successful in Florida and was wanting to branch out. So they started opening up franchises around the country, and he had bought one of them. He had bought the rights to Nashville and then neighboring Franklin and Brentwood. And so he needed someone. He had started it with someone else, and then it wasn't going so well. He suspected the guy was skimming money, and it wasn't good. So he approached me to kind of help him clean it up. And as a result, he offered me 5% of the business if I would run it. So, of course, I jumped on that. And I worked a lot of hours. I had to fire a lot of people. I cleaned it up. I put auditing and other measures in place, as well as running the day-to-day operations, such as inventory and hiring of our contracting out with drivers to make the deliveries. I helped with sales in the restaurants, and we grew it. We grew it to the point we were doing like 400 orders a day. It was wild. And I was in there. I was out driving. I would dispatch and drive. I would dispatch, go pick up the order, deliver it in the early days. And then as we got more and more, I had plenty of drivers. I had a staff of dispatchers that I trained and hired. I wrote all the training manuals, all the HR related stuff, I did all the recruiting and did all the inventory, the bookkeeping, daily bookkeeping, which I then turned over to an accountant who did the taxes and stuff. And so we grew it. It was going really well. And then enter Uber Eats, enter DoorDash, enter all the big chains, and we lost market share. We lost so much market share that we couldn't sustain ourselves anymore. And so we had no choice but to sell out to another big boy in the industry, who promised to keep all the drivers on, keep me on as GM and at a certain salary and all this stuff. So we sold out. I got my little cut of the selling money and went on to work for them. They did not keep their promises. They tried to cut my salary. They had, within 6 months, had chased off all my good drivers, all of my dispatchers. Wasn't good. And I'm not going to name them because I don't want to get involved in anything, any drama, but yeah, they didn't keep their promises. And I will never order from them. So I dropped down to being a driver for them because I wanted some freedom. But this is when I met my now wife, then girlfriend. I was also doing stand-up comedy, and I had the freedom being self-employed to be able to do that. So I started being a driver for them. I got on with a just basic courier company as a contracted driver all the time, doing YouTube and trying to grow YouTube and my stand-up comedy. And I was an independent contracted driver for a long time. And eventually the courier company hired me as an assistant manager in the area and gave me a company car. And I did that for a long time. And then got an opportunity to go on a small tour with some comedians out of Los Angeles. Did that, had to give up that job. Well, after the tour, I came back, and I knew I needed to do something. So I went back to work for the courier company as a contracted driver, still trying to grow YouTube, stand-up comedy, all of that stuff. And then I realized that there was a lot more opportunities for being self-employed than just driving. So I got online. I started on Upwork, and I decided to kind of hire myself out as a virtual assistant. I have, from being self-employed for so many years and doing management, I am skilled in a lot of things. Writing, marketing, SEO, lead generation, sales, recruiting, HR related duties, finance, and accounting. Because in college, I worked for American Express Financial Advisors, actually had my Series 7 and my Series 6 because I sold variable annuities and things like that. So I knew a lot about a lot of stuff. So I decided to go ahead and put that on my profile on Upwork, and I hired myself out, and that leads me to where I am today. I'm still partially on Upwork and still partially invoice I have clients on Upwork, and I also have other clients that I got off of Upwork that I invoice through PayPal every month to pay my bills. And now I'm fully self-employed, my own boss, and I'm going to break that down for you. Hence the title. Yes, I do make over $7,000 a month from being self-employed, but that's gross. That does not take into account all the expenses you have as a self-employed person. In fact, sometimes my net is gross. It's not as much as you would think. And I thought since we're starting this new Bootstrap Warriors series, that I would really break it down, what it's really like to be pretty well fully self-employed and all the expenses that go along with that. So right now I currently work in a number of different things. I help one client as a project manager to make sure they're a tech company, to make sure they get certain projects out on time. So I kind of herd cats. I just make sure things get out on time, that systems work. I'm kind of a QA auditor, kind of fill in when they need me. That is my biggest client, and they are wonderful to me. They actually are. I love them dearly. I also work for a company that is a digital agency. And for them, I've been with them longer than I've actually been with my biggest client. And I do finance, recruiting, and I help them with their lead generation as well. So that's what I do for them. And my third client I got as a referral from the digital dental benefits company. And for them, they're not a regular client. I am working on a big project for them right now on the weekends, but for the most part, I only work for them on occasion, so they're not steady income. But and then I have another client who is a guru of sorts. He's a YouTube online guru. Won't name any names, but I do help him with marketing and lead generation for his course, also doing some sales for him, some sales calls for him on the weekend as well. I work a lot of hours. My hours start at about 4:30, 5 a.m. most days, and I go until 7, especially if I have YouTube interviews or YouTube research I have to do. And then I also work Saturdays. I try to take Sundays off. Doesn't always work out because there's always something that happens, but for the most part, I try to take Sundays off. And Saturday, I work part of the morning for my clients, and the rest of the day is working to get these videos out for you. So that's what I do. And right now, I'm going to give you a breakdown of what I make minus expenses, so you can get an idea of how somebody who's self-employed makes a living. Okay, let's break it down. Now, first of all, I want to say, I know these hour counts, look, how can somebody do this in a week and give their full attention to all their clients? It is very possible. I'm very selective about who I take on as a client, and I always make sure it fits within the time frame that I have available to work. My biggest client, who on average I work about 40 to 45 hours a week for, they get the bulk of my time. So from approximately 6 in the morning to 5 at night, I'm working on their stuff. One of my clients is not super time sensitive, so I do them very early in the morning from 4 to 6 and get all their stuff for the day done. I work with my biggest client through the day. I do take some breaks from my biggest client during the day, and in the afternoon sometimes I will turn off my time tracker and I will do something for someone else. But for the most part, I keep them my main focus through the day, Monday through Friday, even some Saturdays and Sundays. And everybody else I work on at night, very early in the morning, or in the weekends. And I get it all done. I do a good job. I have no issues with any of my clients. I love them all, and I'm very grateful if you see this. So, let's break it down, shall we? Client number 1. I bill them at about $24 per hour, approximately. I work an average of 45 hours per week, which grosses just over $1,000 a week from them. Client 2, and I misspelled client there, I do apologize. I bill them out at about $12 an hour, and there's a reason for the discrepancy in billing, and I will tell you that at the end. And I work about 35 to 40 hours a week for them for an average of about $420 a week. Client 3, I average about 8 to 10 hours, about $115 an hour, about $150 a week. And I do earn some commission from sales that I do for them, but that is not regular. Sometimes I'll earn an extra $100 a week on commission and sales, but that is mainly weekend work. And then client 4, my irregular client that I only do special projects for, they may go months before I have an assignment for them. I'm working on one right now on the weekends, but on average, breaking it all down, the amount of clients I've had, it's going to be between 1 to 2 hours per week at $15 an hour, so about $30. And YouTube, this is with my patrons, my channel members, my ad revenue. I make about $200 a month on YouTube. I know y'all are going, oh, yeah, people ask me all the time, why do you bother? Because I love it. I love it. You guys are like my family. You're like my tribe. I love it. Now, let's talk a little bit about YouTube. YouTube, not all YouTubers are created equal. Some genres have a larger CPM, a higher CPM than other genres. The business genre CPM, those, the Amazon resellers, the Etsyers, anybody that teaches you how to be self-employed or make money, they have the highest CPM at all. And CPM, long technical term, but it does simply stand for the amount of money you get per 1,000 views on YouTube, and that's for ad revenue only. So, anybody that's out there doing small business or Amazon FBA, Etsy, which I listen to a lot of that stuff because it's inspirational, they have the highest CPMs of all. I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 to $24 per 1,000 views they earn on their channel. I'm in a moderate one, true crime, if it's monetized at all. A true crime is one of the more heavily demonetized type of channels, type of genres. But when it's monetized, it's pretty good. I average about $13 per 1,000 views. And then there's other genres which are lower that get a lot more views. So you can't judge a channel based on views alone. There's a lot more that goes into it. So after it's all said and done, if you take into account all the videos I get that are not monetized, I make an average of about $200 a month from YouTube, and that's with an average of about 1,000 views a week. Much better than I used to get. I used to get about 100 views a week, so it has grown. And so putting everything together, including the $200 a month from YouTube, Added up, I make about $1,780 a week times 4.3 over the course of a year, 4.3 weeks in a month. I make about $76.54 a month. Adding YouTube on top of that, $78.54 a month is what I gross. Now, we're going to talk about expenses. But first, about the discrepancies between the hourly rates. I started off with my initial client, which was the digital agency. I started out $9 to $10 an hour for about 15 hours a week. And over time, I have proven that I can do more and quality work, so my billing and my time has gone up. Same with my biggest client. I started out there, $13 an hour for about 20 hours a week, and then have built from there. So it's a slow go. It's a slow go. This is after years of building. And the other two were my newer clients. You know, I just really haven't been going with them. I've been going with them less than a year. I was lucky because I cut my rates during COVID during the first wave of COVID for a couple of my clients. I wasn't making as much money, so I was able to take on 2 other clients. So I started them out low as well, just to keep food on the table. So it hasn't been all roses. I'm just, I built it up to this. And who knows, second wave of COVID may result in more adjustments. Who knows? You never know as a self-employed person. Never know as an employed person what's going to happen. And again, the reason that the discrepancies in how some of those are independent to me, so I keep everything except for like payment processing fees and stuff like that. And one, the Upwork fees takes 5 to 10% of my pay right off the top. So I don't bring that much home. So let's look at my expenses. Biggest one is taxes. This is why I'm a libertarian, folks. I hate this because as a self-employed person, not only do I pay my tax bracket, I also pay self-employment tax. And so on average, I end up with the self-employment tax, which is basically the employer's part of Social Security and Medicare. You have to pay that. So it's an additional 3.5% tax that you wouldn't ordinarily be paying. You have to pay both the employee and the employer's side of Social Security and Medicare. So with that, plus my tax bracket, plus all of that together, I average about 20% of my income after deductions going to the government. So that is $1,531 a month I have to put aside for taxes. It goes in an account to pay my taxes. I don't touch it. And then I have equipment and subscriptions I need to do my job. $200 a month is average. I also have to do retirement for both myself and my wife, so I put aside $1,500 for that into investments. And I also recently hired a great YouTube agency to help me with my YouTube. We're doing some rebranding around here. Don't worry, still going to be true crime, history, no changes there. But I can't scale it anymore on my own because I'm not able to put as much time into it as I would like. So I'm hiring somebody to help me with some of that, and that costs me $400 a month as well. Now, I have not figured in fees for when I get my invoices paid, or when I send my invoices, or when Upwork or Fiverr or any of the other platforms take their cut. I have not figured all of that in here because I just didn't. So this is not going to be exact. This is actually going to be lower. So starting out with that beautiful number of $7,854 a month on average, subtract it, everything that I have to pay for being self-employed, I net just over $4,000 a month. And then after you take in consideration PayPal fees, Upwork fees, Fiverr fees, all the stuff I have to pay, it's probably closer to about $3,500 a month. And from that, I pay my living expenses, rent, utilities, food, cell phone, insurance. So as you can see, I'm just a working class stiff like most people, even though I take on the added drudgery of being self-employed, but because I like it so much, that's what I do. That's what I love to do. That's what I love to do. So, oh, and I didn't even mention we have to pay for our own health insurance too. So just like everyone else, we're breaking even every month, maybe a little extra left over, though not much. So there you go, a quick overview of how quick that money goes. And there you go, folks. Breakdown of what it's like to be fully self-employed in 2020 as when you are your product. My product is not a tangible product except for the merch and stuff that I sell here on YouTube. It is literally me, the skills that I have and have acquired over many, many years. But I love it. All of my clients are the best people on earth, and I absolutely love and adore them. So, that's my story. That is episode 1, an intro to Bootstrap Warriors. You'll be hearing more of these stories. There's a lot of people that I'm interviewing that have been through a lot more trauma than me. So I haven't been through any trauma at all compared to some of the people I'm interviewing. So stay tuned for that. I put this out because I know Monday, it's Monday when you're seeing this, so you're probably going back to work after the long holiday weekend, and you don't have time to listen to an in-depth true crime, so I thought this would be something neat to listen to while you're working. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back really, really soon with more true crime, more history, more Chad Daybell. Until next time, Keto God.